Hi there, welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast Film Club, and no, I am not Chris, I am Tate, and I'm here today with George, and we are doing something outside of Chris. We are completing our film club list for the year, I think, with Finding Nemo, which was the recommended movie from The Good Dinosaur, and this is history. See, I didn't know this, but this is the first ever Cinema Savvy thing which doesn't have Chris in it, other than the Aldred Articulates.
That got deleted. I deleted that after the one thing because I was like, okay, Bond's out. I've got nothing else to talk about for a month. So I kind of thought, no, let's not. And it didn't.
Okay, so this is technically the only thing on the channel which won't have Chris in, which means we can start off by saying Star Wars is a good film, the new one especially,
Chris has no
because
soul.
I don't know, he has no soul from that. But today we're not discussing that. We're discussing Finding Nemo, the lovable 2003. Really, really good box office film for families and stuff like that, about the ocean and like a dad trying to find his son, but they just so happen to be fish. So
It's
loving
like
Pixar with all of their ideas to get loving family messages across.
Taken, but under the sea.
Yes, and if you are like young and you want to see Taken, I'd suggest watching Finding Nemo first. Because I'm pretty sure it draws a lot of inspiration from it. Now, usually Chris would be like, oh yeah, I'm going to talk about all these different things and stuff like that, but we've got our own schedule here. We've planned it out. So we're going to start off, because this film is over 10 years old, there is no need for spoilers. I mean, who needs spoilers on a film that's 10 years old?
And
to be honest, yeah.
the kind of plot is in the actual title, Finding Nemo.
I wonder whether he actually finds Nemo in the end. That's the question.
In a Pixar film, very hard. How are we going to take that risk?
Well, you never know. I really want a dark Pixar film like Lion King, but like the protagonist loses in the end, or it's a bittersweet ending, just so that kids learn that not everything goes the way things are planned. Pixar, are you listening? Because I need you to take note here. But yeah, so we're just going to start talking about this now, because we got the new Finding Dory film coming out. Is it next year?
Sometime next year.
Sometime next year.
There was a trailer which was kind of cool, but then again it's Dory, so I'm happy they're bringing back the other characters, and I'm praying for the shark to make an appearance.
You don't like Dory, do you?
No, I despise her. I mean, it's nothing bad. It's just one of them characters. She's like the Jar Jar Binks of Pixar. I just can't stand her. It's when she appears on screen, she just does my head in, and then talk about, fluking their way to victory. She can speak whale to a whale. It's just one of them.
Does she actually speak whale to the whale in that scene?
That's what I don't know, and I just never liked her. And as I've grown older, she seriously is the Jar Jar Binks of Pixar, and like Star Wars aren't going to give Jar Jar Binks his own film. Let's please not have a Dory one. But they're bringing back everyone else, which I'm looking forward to. It's not you, Ben. I like your TV show. I just don't like Dory.
Okay, so we'll just move on to the plot very quickly. As Wikipedia says, I can't pronounce that word, clownfish, Marlin and his wife Coral, live in the Great Barrier Reef, and they get attacked by a barracuda, and, well, spoiler alert, not really spoiler alert, Coral dies. It's really sad. I think it's the only Pixar film where at the very, very, very start of the film, someone dies, which is really kind of sad. I mean, when I was watching it as a kid, I remember that scene very clearly, and it really did get to me. However, in that attack, she is pregnant, or she's laid her eggs, and there's only one egg remaining, and Marlin calls it Nemo.
It's like he couldn't.
Oh, go on.
He couldn't really finish it. Like the barracuda, there's his whole dinner. It's like a bunch of peas, and he just leaves that one that just scratches it a little bit.
Yeah. Because Nemo is then deformed, because
Exactly.
one of its fins is smaller than the other one, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a cool opening scene. I mean, it's one of their most memorable ones by a country mile.
Yeah.
And it's just that shot of when the barracuda's just there, like watching them. It's like, okay, they're screwed, and then it suddenly gets dark.
It's a very sad opening to the film. But however, when Nemo's finally grown up, going to the first day of school, he gets kidnapped because he runs off, and a scuba diver kidnaps and takes him off to Sydney, and this timid little fish who's always been scared of letting his only son go out into the world. He finally loses track of him for 1 second, and he just disappears. So, paranoid parents out there, please do not take Finding Nemo as inspiration to be even more paranoid. Because Marlin, who I've always called Marvin, I don't know why. I may actually call him Marvin in this review, and I'm really sorry if I do. He then goes off to go and find him. He meets loads of different people on the way, friends and foes. He goes on a massive adventure, learns a little bit more about himself, learns about other people, and just general life lessons that he gets on along the way. Whilst this is happening, Nemo is stuck in a fish tank and has to try and survive in the new fish culture in a dentist. And he has the looming threat of one child who sometimes gets given a fish from the fish tank to keep, and every single time the fish is immediately shaken to death, which is a pretty looming threat, I have to say, for a kids' film. However, in the end, it all comes together because it's a Pixar film, and we're now going to talk a little bit more about the characters. So let's start off with Marlin the clownfish. What did you think of Marlin?
He's a concerned parent, as you can tell. Obviously his wife was murdered, and so were all of his unborn children, so it's just him and Nemo, who didn't really get over it much. But that's fair enough to him. It's one of them where you don't really like him at the start, and then he does grow on you.
Yeah.
But maybe he grows on me because he's with Dory for so much, I'm not entirely sure. But he definitely changes, and he is a lot more likeable at the end. But he's kind of grizzled. I mean, I forgot the name of the guy that voices him, but he's out of Drive. Albert Brooks, that's the one.
Yeah.
And you can tell it's him. I like his story, and you know, what I prefer about him is the stuff with Nemo and the fish tank I really like. But I like how Marvin's adventure is like different groups of people. So you have the sharks, then there's the turtles and the other stuff. And it's an interesting journey, but I think it's one of those films where you prefer the side characters to the protagonist, unless it's just me.
Yeah.
But there's a lot
there are loads of side characters in this film, and they're all very, very unique, and they bring a lot to the story.
Yeah.
I'll go on.
I was just saying that they're not overused. They're in perfect balance, because if you have too much of it, it doesn't work. Like again, Dory, she could have been in it for 10-15 minutes, and she would have been a lot more likeable, I think.
Personally, from my standpoint, Dory makes this film. We'll go on to talk about Dory a little bit more in a minute, but my impression of Marlin that I always got was that he had never really gone out or done anything before. I mean, in one of the opening scenes, he's speaking to some of the other parents at Nemo's school, and he's trying to tell a joke, and he can't get his words out because he's obviously never had that interaction. He spent his entire life up until that point when Nemo's been alive, just basically keeping a 24-hour watch on him because he's so concerned. And it means that he's lost all of his social ability, and that definitely shows throughout the entire film. And he does start to gain a little bit more trust with people once he meets Dory and all of these different characters. And by the end of it, he's a completely different person, and he is able to tell that joke, which I cannot remember for the life of me. I think it's to do with aubergines.
Is it something to do with...
Is it an aubergine?
It was something, a sea turtle. It was something to do with a sea turtle, wasn't it?
Maybe a sea turtle or a sea aubergine. We'll probably put it in the comments or something like that if we're able to find it in the end. But I was just thinking that his character really does develop throughout this film, and I would say that he is probably the main character in this film, even though it's called Finding Nemo. But it's the journey that he takes as a father, to the lengths that he would go to save his son, and that is the underlying message of this film.
Wouldn't you have loved to have seen, rather than Finding Dory, like Mad Marvin? And it's just like some underwater sensation. Could you imagine like the sharks? Get George.
No, I want to see an actual 18 version of this film. In the sea, taken, but in the water, done as Finding Nemo.
That barracuda scene would be brutal.
I think every scene would be brutal. Like the scene where he meets Bruce the shark. That would be proper intense.
Like Andy Serkis motion captures like everyone.
Yes. Yes, that would be brilliant. So should we move on to the actual character in the title with Nemo? The smaller clownfish who basically gets kidnapped and has to survive a fish tank.
He's just a little kid, I mean, obviously he's a fish, he's a child, he's at school. he just kind of wants to do his own thing. And he's at that age, isn't he, where he's just exploring, and he
Mm.
gets very angry with his dad very quickly. But he has his moments. He can come across as whiny, but then I think once he gets into the fish tank, I think he becomes a lot more likeable. Again, that's helping the surrounding characters, but it's an interesting journey because they could have focused on a lot of characters, but I think they've got everything right on everyone. So Nemo has his moments, and then he's got his other moments. He's just quite likeable. I mean, he just suits the role. As you've got to find him, you might sometimes think we're not going to see him till the end, but then the fact that you get the sub story with him just helps.
Yeah, I have to say that at the start he was a very rebellious character. Of course he wanted to obey the wishes of his dad, but he also wanted to go out and explore. And then he knew the dangers of that. I'd say the message there would be stranger danger. Or don't go wandering off from your parents when you're too young. But he really does learn, and when he's in the fish tank to start off with, he's very shy, very quiet, doesn't want to speak to anyone. And then suddenly when he realizes how big the stakes are and that he might actually not survive it, he really does knuckle down and become a more confident character, which I quite like. Okay, Dory. I'd have to say that Dory is everyone's favourite character in the film, other than you.
Yeah, I feel like a Chris.
You feel like a Chris.
I just never talked to her when I was younger, and I know everyone loves her, but there's just this thing. It just never really worked with me.
I feel like it's the quick talking randomness and the forgetfulness.
That
combination, yeah.
I think in that situation, I'd be a lot like Marvin if I was trying to get help with someone and she'd forget him, I'd be just livid. But she has her moments. I mean, I feel sorry for in that scene when Marvin's shouting at her and stuff. But it's just one of them where I just never touched her. I know I'm in a minority here. It will be interesting in the film next year because maybe she might not be in until the end after she goes missing. We don't know. But it's just one of them. But I can see why everyone likes her. Don't get me wrong. And she does. Yeah. She's not useless to the plot. She is important, and she does what she's meant to do, and it does work as a companion. It's just me personally didn't take to it.
A quick note before we talk a little bit more about this. I reckon with the next film, because from what I've seen of the trailer so far, it's less of finding Dory, but more of finding Dory's family.
Yeah.
Which means that we'll probably see a lot of Ellen DeGeneres' character, which is something that you obviously didn't want to hear.
Maybe.
But
I clocked on when they kind of announced it. There's just the backside of me that's maybe we won't. But yeah, I mean, I've seen some pictures. There's an octopus that's going to be in next year and stuff. And I'll still watch it. Don't get me wrong. It's just one of them where I'm looking forward to see what they can do because obviously now we're going to have Nemo and Marvin also together on their journey. Hopefully with some of the legendary side characters.
I want Bruce back, by the way. I'm just saying that now. I want Jill back as well.
I want Bruce and
Jill, Crush.
I want the starfish that screams, the blowfish.
Yes.
There are so many. Oh, they're incredible. And what's the French one that cleans them? I don't know the names, but you know what I mean?
No, neither do I. I can only assume it's possibly Gurgle. The people in the tank are Gurgle, Debflo, Bubbles, Peach, which is the starfish, Jax, I reckon, French one. So we'll go with that. But Ellen DeGeneres actually got the role of Dory when she went to, I think it was the meal of either Andrew Stanton or Lee Unkrich. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But she went to the meal of their house, and she changed the topic of conversation about 6 or 7 times in 1 minute, and that's when he gave her the role.
Oh, really?
He immediately said on the spot, "Look, I'm making this movie. You fit the character immediately. Do you want the role?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So that's the reason why she has that character. And I feel like I couldn't imagine anyone else doing that character in the same kind of way that Ellen DeGeneres does, and I have to credit her for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is unique in her right. I mean, you can see her in her TV show. If you see clips, whatever, she's always funny. She's always great, and she just has that inner where she kind of plays off screen. It's odd that I dislike her Dory, but I do like Ellen.
Yeah.
That she's so likable. It transcends the screen because she's just lively naturally. And she's great. You can't think of anyone else who can play it right.
Okay, so let's move on to, well, my favourite side character of Bruce the shark. and his introduction into the film. What did you think of Bruce?
It's when he smiles his teeth. I just remember seeing it on the posters before I went to the cinema and just Bruce everywhere. And it's when he speaks, and he's Australian for a start. And it's just amazing what the setup that he takes them all to the, it's party balloons and it's the bombs.
Yeah.
And then it just drops it that we're like vegetarians, and it's just one of the greatest things I've ever
Fish are friends, not food.
Exactly, it's incredible because you just don't ever think if you're going to make a film about fish with sharks in. I don't know how on earth they came up with vegetarians, but it's the best idea they've come up with the whole thing because it's just amazing. And then it's just when he gets set off, he's just amazing in the whole thing. And then he comes up at the end as well, I think.
Yeah, he does. So I really do hope he is in the sequel because he was one of my favourite characters. And just kind of his introduction with the big pearly smiling teeth. I can always remember that scene where he just kind of creeps up behind them and then they start hugging each other. And then he turns out to be friendly until like drop of blood gets accidentally released into the water. Then he becomes a murderous killing machine.
It's just when like the blood goes up to his nose and then his eyes transfixed. It's probably one of the best action scenes in the film if it counts.
Yeah.
When he's on the rampage for they're swimming away, they're trying to protect him and stuff. But I thought it was amazing.
And I have to say, like, this film in general is beautifully animated, especially that scene.
Oh yeah, this is easily in their top 3 or 4 Pixar films, like Country Mile. And I think on Rotten Tomatoes it's like 98% or something. It's amazing like that.
I'm looking at IMDb right now, but it's at 8.2, which is quite high. I'm just going to have a look on Rotten Tomatoes. But whilst we're doing that, let's have a look at Jill. And I didn't actually know that Jill's character, who is kind of like the war hero in the fish tank, who's been in there for so long, was actually played by Willem Dafoe. I did not know that.
See,
I was...
Sorry,
Go on.
I was just going to say, like, I remember as a kid I was telling you before, and when I didn't know he was in the film, and then he spoke. And obviously this is off the back of Spider-Man, which I learned as a child, and I just realised it's the Green Goblin. And, you even think of it, he's got his scar on his face, his Willem Dafoe just perfectly suited, but he's got such a unique voice. And I love the character where, he's the brains behind it all, and you don't get him revealed until everyone else is the one that silences him. And he's one that, again, the side character is great. You use him to the right amount. You have too much of him, but he's so enigmatic. You want to know more about him and what he's done.
And I hope that he's in fact, I hope that all of these characters in the next film.
I know full well that Willem Dafoe's back.
Brilliant.
Hopefully some more. I know that Idris Elba is playing something in it, which is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, Idris Elba,
Do not spoil Luther for me, I haven't seen it yet.
But his presence is going to be incredible. Imagine him and Willem Dafoe.
Oh my god, brilliant.
But
Just a conversation between the two of them would be good.
Exactly, but the fish tank crew, they're great. I mean, you kind of look at anything they do, they're funny, they're likeable, you kind of feel them when they set up the whole elaborate, almost Mission Impossible type plan to clean the fish tank, and then they just go out and get technology, and it's just hilarious. It's just great because that's what did happen in real life. And it's how they sort of communicate with the pelicans and their whole backstory. They're always trying to get out, and it's such like a nice ending when they finally get out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, now what do we do?
And that's a lot. It's a escape part of the film, isn't it? It's like a war film where you have to escape like a prisoner of war camp. I was always reminded. I don't know why, but always in my head when watching it, I would have the music from The Great Escape going in my head. Just because it just perfectly fits that scene. By the way, if anyone was curious, all critics 99%, top critics 98%. So, wow, that is just massive.
It is a great film, though, isn't it?
It is.
That's the thing. You can take away the kids aspect, and this is what I like about Pixar. With the sort of Disney animated ones, you can take away the kid aspect, and they're all elaborate princess fairy tales or stuff like that. Especially the older you go into the Disney archive. Then when you turn over Pixar, they're majority of them are genuinely great films. I wouldn't say they had a bad one until Cars, which isn't completely bad. It's just boring. And
Yeah.
then they kind of fell for the sequel, analogy.
They got a Cars 3 coming out next year,
Yeah,
I think.
and it's stuff like that. But that's what I liked Inside Out, was something different. I think it worked, and adults saw it, and kids liked it. And again, it's something like Nemo. I think with Nemo though, if you're probably a dad or a mum, you probably connect a lot with it all. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But I just think it's almost a tourist thing.
Okay, so moving on from the Bruce scene, and after we get introduced to Gil, or Jill, we have the Ring of Fire scene, which I think is the one which stuck in my head the most out of the entirety of this film. It's a very comedic scene. It's also a very serious scene, where Nemo is in the fish tank and he is going through almost like an initiation ceremony, where he has to swim through a ring of bubbles. And everyone's like chanting, and it's like a kind of, I want to say voodoo ritual kind of ceremony type thing, where they're kind of egging him on to go through the fire, and they don't think he's going to make it, but he swims straight through. It's an amazing moment, and this was a moment in the film which always stuck with me.
And
I'm not sure how it affected you.
I love it. I mean, we've got 2 dogs, bulldogs, and my sister always shouts like Shrek, like you heard. Because
Yeah.
they're kind of like, they're like yapping fish sometimes. But what I always remember the bubble scene is that you think it's this impossible task, and it just goes through the pieces, there's almost nothing there.
Yeah.
And that's what I was loved it, was how everything was dark, and the starfish was like, he's just a little boy, and he starts like screaming and stuff. I just love it. It's so bizarre, but it's just incredible at the same time. I think. Again, it's just side characters. They're
Yeah.
amazing. I don't think bar Toy Story, maybe Nemo actually beats Toy Story, but secondary characters are the best thing about it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we've got people who Marlin meets on his journey with Dory, and we've also got the people, keep on saying people, fish in the fish tank, as well as all the other characters in the dentistry, the birds that say mine. It's just everything about this film is perfectly put together. And moving on to some other characters which don't really speak but are very key to the film, and we got the scene with the jellyfish. The bouncing jellyfish field. Basically, the premise of this is they need to get to an oceanic current. I'm not sure what it's called, the OAC or something like that. But they need to get through to this current. They have to go through a jellyfish field to get to it. And it's a very interesting scene where Dory figures out you can bounce on the jellyfish to get through the field. However, they start racing, and then it goes completely out of control. With one of them, and in the end, both of them getting stung pretty badly. What did you think of that scene?
Well, before I go into that scene, one of my favourite bits is just before that. I don't know what type of fish it is, but it's when Marvin's talking to the big group, like that.
Oh, the School of Fish, yeah.
That's the one. And then there's these brilliant comedy bits that I love. And then heading into the jellyfish scene, it was a kind of great scene. I remember when I was younger at the cinema when they're kind of like bouncing on her, and then it speeds her. She's ill, and I think that's when Marvin sort of changes, because before that, you think he'd leave Dory to just die, but he'd just go back and just save her.
Yeah.
But the jellyfish is amazing. It's almost like mesmerising how they're suddenly floating in and around the screen, where they kind of mimic a little baby boy.
Yeah. No, all of the jellyfish in that scene, like, it adds to it completely, as it makes a very kind of nice, fun scene really dangerous. And it also, I think it changes Marlin completely. I mean, the fact that he has to go through all of that pain when he gets stung in the end to get Dory out of the maze that they're going through. And he ends up, does he end up getting KO'd at the end by one of the jellyfish? Like, he's completely out of it when he actually escapes from the field, and both them to float towards the character of Crush, who kind of helps them up onto the current.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that scene was very key to the film. I'm pretty sure that it would have taught kids, don't go near jellyfish on the beach. Now, I'm just got to say something quickly. I do keep on saying, I probably teach kids, probably teach parents, stuff like that. It is a Disney film, so there will be lessons in there, and everything is done on purpose. So that's why I'm just reassuring myself by saying that just then. But let's move on to the turtles and the currents. Now, these are my sister's favourites characters. They're really chill. They're all kind of smooth and they're talking slowly. And I'm not really a big fan of these characters. I don't think they add much to the plot. However, I do think they're quite funny and they're a nice comedic break after that very intense scene with the jellyfish.
I love the turtles. I remember seeing it as, you know, they're wise, they're really old. There's nothing better than having a stoner as a turtle. And I know it's meant to be, you know, sort of laid back, but everyone sees them as a stoner, especially when you see it in old rage. And it's kind of great how they just like, they're kind of like plodding around, slowly going down the current. And then he's like, hold on, bruh. And then they're like flying, and I just love them. And you're right, they are a nice break to what happens before. But it's kind of weird because I want to say I like these the most, but then there's bits that I like most about the sharks. And it just goes to strength of them because the turtles, they are heroes.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of them are called Mr. Turtle, but if I always had a turtle, it's Mr. Turtle. I've always wanted to have his name as it helps me.
We've got Crush and Squirt, which are the two turtles which I think get named. Squirt being the little one. Crush being the dad. Yeah.
But it's
oh, go on.
No,
you go on.
They're just amazing.
Yeah. And then Nemo escapes. That is a huge scene towards the end of the film. The scene where Nemo just kind of, he figures out a system. They make the fish tank dirty by destroying the filter or disrupting it. And in the end, it means they have to take the fish out into plastic bags, and they plan their escape route to get flushed down one of the sinks or the toilet. And it works, and they manage to get out. But I always remember that scene being very hectic, and I think this is the actual favourite moment of the film, where there's a kid sat in the dentist office waiting to go into the surgery, and he looks through the fish tank and he sees all the chaos that's going on, and his jaw just drops. And I just think that scene is just classic, amazing. I'd love to have that scene as a GIF. That would be just amazing. I'd use it for everything.
The whole scene is incredible. I mean, it's everything from the girl when she first comes into the room, and it kind of does the zoom, and it's they've got the classic music. It's the one from Psycho or something else, and it's just her face with the braces, and she's just terrifying to the fish. And then when Nemo comes out, you seriously, I know he doesn't die because it's Disney, but you really sense something's going to happen. Then he fakes his death, and it's all the other fish's reaction. Marvin thinks he's dead. It's the little reunion, and then you just have like Willem Dafoe like kamikazing his person to save the day out of the fish tank.
Yeah.
But I think it's great. And the thing is, it's so hard to have a villain in a film about fish. But they pull it off perfectly with her. And the uncle is this kind of bloke which you just dislike. He's not really a villain as such, but the whole chaos is great, especially when the birds have flown in before and they've kicked off. But you're right with that kid. It's his reaction to everything. It's that break. It's the kind of reception musical in the background to it as well.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the funniest moments in Pixar itself.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then in the ending, they get reunited. It isn't a big scene, and it isn't really a memorable scene, as all of the scenes before it are probably a lot more memorable. But they get reunited, they end up going home, and the film ends in a very similar kind of almost mirrored version of the start of the film, just after the Barracuda attack, where they wake up, they go to school, but this time everything seems better, everything seems right. And I think that's a very good way to end the film, just in a way that kind of parallels the start of the film, showing that things have changed and everything's better for it.
Yeah, and I do like that because they could have easily had them swim, fade to black, something like that. By having them at home, seeing what's changed, you get a few funny bits where Bruce comes back and the dads all shit themselves, and I think the squid kind of does the black goo stuff. And it's just a nice ending, and it's the ending it deserves, if you know what I mean. And again, going into Dory next year, it'll be interesting to see how they start off. Is it just going to start as a random day where Dory goes away, or are we going to see some of the same characters?
I've seen the trailer once, and it starts off by her remembering something about her family, and then she goes off to try and find them.
Because she's like sleep swimming or something, isn't she?
Yes, she is. So I don't know. Maybe the plot will go on from there. But finally, just to start off, would you recommend this movie? Just to
Yes.
finish.
To anyone that hasn't seen it, right. Obviously, I'm being very hyped and biased, but if someone said to me today, what film do you want to watch, I'd say Star Wars. But if someone says, what about Finding Nemo, I'd say, yeah, put it on, it's great, you'll love it. Everyone loves it. Show it to your
Yeah.
kids, show it to your family. It's a good film.
If you're looking for an animated film to see over Christmas, there are loads of films you can see. This isn't a Christmas film, however, it's a very good film to see at any time of the year. I reckon it's going to be one of those timeless classics, even when like we move to the next form of media and this kind of computer-generated image isn't good anymore, this kind of animation. I still reckon this will be kind of one of those films that people will always go back to. And just to say that it was one of the highest grossing films of its time, I think it's still the second highest grossing animated film, only beaten out by Frozen. But it was very close to getting to 1 billion at box office. It really was. It got to 936 million.
Yeah, I
So
remember
it almost made it.
it had a 3D re-release, and I remember a lot of people did go, which did push up the numbers to that. But it's a massive number, especially for the film.
Yeah.
12 years ago, something like that. I'm guessing it's 03.
Yeah, I mean, it got almost 10 times its money back, so...
It's amazing. And it's definitely, Pixar-wise,
it's up there.
yeah, to me, mine goes Toy Story trilogy, Bugs Life, then Nemo. A lot of people dislike Bugs Life, I love it.
I like Bugs Life, but I'd say this is up there definitely with not only just one of my favourite Pixar films, one of my favourite animated films of all time.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, that was our film club review of Finding Nemo. Now, Chris would normally do his, oh, you can like, rate, comment. We're not going to do that this week. We're just going to say it's down there in the description. I really do hope that you enjoy your holiday break or whatever you're doing right now. And if we don't put out a video until New Year, we hope you have a great New Year as well. Something that we have been discussing recently was doing films for Oscar season. We've started to plan out what's going to be brought out, so you're more likely to see more films to do with Oscar season than Film Club, but in the end you'll still get the normal amount of daily, well not daily, but weekly content that we bring out. So thank you ever so much for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.